Good evening, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Beer Rating with Sean Connors. It's May 11th, 12th, sometime around there. It's still in the pandemic, so hopefully everybody's doing well. Down in this area, we're doing the best we can. We just went down from level 5 to level 3. Not a lot of difference, just a couple extra things open. So hopefully everybody's doing well. Alright, so for the month of May, I had this pack I've been doing. I've done one last week, and last week I believe was my... I want to say gooseberry ale. Yes, gooseberry flavored ale. And what this is a 4-pack that I got. It's historic ales from Scotland. And basically, as the name says, it's traditional historic ales from Scotland. So it's a little bit different than what ales that you might normally see in your part of the world. Here in Canada, some of these I'm definitely not going to see. And the brewery itself is William Brothers Brewery. In my understanding, they're in around the name of this town or city. Excuse me for a second, Alloa, so Allo or something like that. Down around Glasgow, Edinburgh, somewhere around that area. I've never been to Scotland, it's on my bucket list, but if I got that wrong, feel free to correct me. My understanding, the brewery's been around since about mid-80s, mid to late 80s. They started off as a homebrew store, which I believe is what we here in Canada would call a U-brew. So basically you go in, you brew your own beer. So I'm assuming that's the same idea. Once again, correct me if I'm wrong. I said last week there's 4 different beers in this one. There's a heather flavored ale, a gooseberry flavored, a Scots pine flavored, and an elderberry. And there are various amounts of alcohol. So last week I did the gooseberry. This one I'm going to do the heather flavored beer. Now, if you're like me, you're not a beer expert, so you're probably going, what the hell is heather? And the name, actually you can see it, just zoom in there so you can see what they call it. It's a Celtic name is what I understand. Fraoch, I believe it is. F-R-A-O-C-H. I'm calling that an O. I'm sure there's probably another name for it. But my understanding, that is the Celtic word for heather. So what is heather? Heather basically is a small bush-like plant that's quite common in Scotland. It's in dry acidic soil, so it's not obviously the best soil. I believe they bloom in August, and it's used to add a bittering or flavoring agent for the beer. Now it's also, traditionally, it was an ingredient in what they call gruit. G-R-U-I-T. And gruit was actually used prior to hops, or when hops weren't available. Basically, it was a mixture of herbs and spices that was used to flavor beer and add bitterness. So heather was a big component of that in Scotland. Alright, let's see what's on the... It's a light amber ale with floral aroma and spicy herbal finish. As I said, William Brothers Brewing Company, product of Scotland. 5% alcohol. And it says Scotland's original craft ale, brewed here for over 4,000 years. It says Lean Fraoch, in brackets heather ale, is the oldest style of ale still in production today. Brewed to a 16th century recipe, Fraoch is a light amber ale with a floral, peaty aroma, full malt body, and spicy herbal finish. And then they just give some ingredients. So this says it's brewed there for over 4,000 years. My understanding from the website, the recipe they're using specifically, is about 2,000. And my understanding from the website is basically when they had their U-Brew store, a lady came in with an old family recipe for heather ale. And she wanted their help to brew a batch of the family's heather ale. So the boys obligated the William Brothers, but they asked that for helping her, that they could use the recipe. And I believe it was one of their first ales that they used, and it really, really took off. I mean, they were oversold, they had to expand their production, and over time they actually added a couple more historic ales to their lineup. But my understanding, this was the first. Alright, so let's crack this bad boy open. I'll give my glass a quick cold water rinse, as per usual. After this one, I still have 2 beers left for the month of May. So I got a Scots pine flavored and an elderberry. So we'll see how those go. I had a buddy of mine, James, he's a big beer enthusiast. he actually had the box over Christmas, and he said there was 3 that he really enjoyed, 1 not so much. So the gooseberry, I was quite fond of that, more than I thought I would be. So let's see what heather ale tastes like, or the, what do they call it? The Fraoch. So a nice golden color, and that pretty well, we got that from the label. Not a lot of head, but a little bit of carbonization, not a lot. Typical ale aroma, nothing jumping out at me. A little floral, as I said. Let's see how it tastes. Wow. I have no idea why. I've never been to Scotland, like I said. I've been to Ireland 3 times. And I've never had this happen to me before, but the first mouthful, as soon as I tasted it, I pictured myself in an Irish pub. I have no idea why. Maybe it's mind over matter. But for me, that's a good thing. I love Ireland. I've never been to Scotland. It's on my bucket list. A regular viewer, my friend Louise, is from England, and I traveled with her my last trip, and we were talking about someday doing a trip to Scotland. Like I said, there's not a lot of strong aroma. I'm actually liking that better than I thought it would. They say a spicy herbal finish. I'm not really getting a lot of that, but there is definitely a flavor finish, but it doesn't linger, and I like that. So actually I'm quite surprised. I didn't know what to expect, but I'm actually enjoying this a lot more than I thought it would. Normally I like a little bit more carbonization, a little bit more head. But like I said, it's a historic recipe. It is what it is, but I'm definitely enjoying it. It's definitely getting the spicy finish, but once again, it doesn't linger at all. They say the floral peaty aroma, I guess I can get that a little bit, but once again, there's nothing there really, really strong that's going to turn you off, in my opinion. As you can see, it's an easy drinking beer. I'm actually quite impressed. I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. Once again, no idea what to expect. And I kind of like it when I don't know what to expect, and then it's a pleasure. So that's good. And as you can see, a little bit of lacing on the glass, and that's basically a sign of a clean beer glass. If you ever pour beer and the bubbles are sticking to the side, that's a sign of a dirty glass. But if as you're drinking it leaves a little bit of foam, that's called lacing. And you really see it with some really heavy stouts like a Guinness. You can almost, every mouth, you can see where you're gone. So just a little bit of knowledge there. Alright, I have to give it a rating. Once again, my ratings are always out of 5. 1's a drain port, don't like it, can't finish it. A 2's being, yeah, I'm not a big fan, but I'll finish it because I don't want to waste it. A 3 being a good beer, a 4 being a very good beer, and a 5 being best beer ever. And right away, I think this one, just from the taste and how quickly I'm drinking it, I think is going to be a 4. If you've watched any of my reviews, I think I might have given probably 2 or 3 4.5s, maybe if that. Normally 3.5 is probably a regular rating. This one, I'm pretty sure I'm going to give it a 4, which means it's a very good beer. I'm enjoying it immensely, and I wish I had a couple more. I've got to say, actually, this is probably the best beer I've had in a while for reviews. So I think for the William Brothers Fraoch Heather Ale, there's no debate for me. It's a 4.0. It's a very good beer. If you have a chance, pick one up. I think you'll enjoy it. So there you go, folks. That's my review for this week. Hopefully you can join me next week, which I think I'm going to try the Scots Pine flavored strong ale at 7.5. And that's kind of unique because that has no hops. The ingredients are water, barley, malt, pine, spruce, and yeast. So I would assume they're getting their flavoring and their bittering agent from their pine and their spruce. And once again, that's one I don't know what to expect. As I mentioned, gruit. Gruit was herbs and spices used instead of hops to give flavor and a bittering agent. So I don't know if that would be considered gruit because there's only pine and spruce, but there's no hops in the one for next week, the pine flavored strong. So there you go. So there you go, folks. Hopefully you can join me next week. I hope everybody's surviving the pandemic, taking care of themselves, social distancing, quarantine if necessary, and of course washing your hands. So there you go, folks. Until next week, as always, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.